good save there, and then seconds later, Perry hits the post, and McKenna actually got a piece of it to hit it off the post. But then after those two plays, that was pretty much it for the Ducks because Ritchie takes an interference penalty, another dumb penalty by Nick Ritchie. Stars get their first power play of the game. You felt at this point, just because it was Ritchie who got the penalty, I felt like the Stars were going to score and tie it up. It felt like it was written in the script.
It's so terrible to say that, man, but I said the same thing to my buddy who was at the game with, who's, mind you, a giant Kings fan, so he was enjoying my pain in that third period watching the Stars take over the game. Like, dude, I can just feel this. I just feel it. They're out shooting the Ducks. They're out chancing the Ducks. It does not look good. And then all of a sudden Ritchie takes that penalty. I'm like, oh, here it comes. Just waiting for it. But luckily that didn't turn out to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, after that point, even through the power play, the Ducks really just look like they're hanging on to get these 2 points, and it's. I guess we really haven't seen that for a while. The Ducks have actually played some strong third periods over the last 3 games to have this 3-game winning streak up until this point. But the Ducks got a late chance. Cogliano was denied by Mike McKenna after this is probably his second best save of the night, where Silfverberg was able to find him in front, and it was a good point-blank save. But the Stars turn the puck over again, exiting the zone. It falls right to Cogliano. He gets a breakaway, makes McKenna pay this way, 5-hole, 5-3 Ducks. That's the insurance goal, game over.
Yeah, that's all she wrote at that point. The Ducks victimized a young goalie with not a lot of experience. I felt like in this game they made the best of their chances, but they piled on the shots on goal. I mean, I felt like they dominated those first 40 minutes, right? And then you go to the third period and they only had 5 shots. It was just a weird bounce back for the Stars in the third. This is a team that's not going to the playoffs.
Yeah.
They're not playing their top goaltender. The Ducks are trying to get playoff ready and stay hot. Hell of a win. They needed it. But I felt like the third period was too scary for me. I'm glad they got the win. I'm not trying to bash our team, but my God. If you're going to dominate the team for 40, just take it all the way. This is a team that's not making the playoffs.
Yeah, it was definitely scarier than it had to be. I mean, the Stars outshot the Ducks 14-5 in that third period. And they kind of did this to San Jose in the last game as well. San Jose took a 2-0 lead in the first period of their game against the Stars. They played a good 40 minutes essentially because Jamie Benn got a late goal in the second period of that game. And they just poured it on in the third period, scored 3 goals, ended up beating the Sharks 4-2. It kind of felt like this was going to be that type of game, and the Ducks were able just to hold on. But, yeah, I mean, the Stars, albeit not in a playoff spot, are really trying to play spoiler. They're one of those teams that I think they're pissed off. They feel like they felt, and a lot of people felt they could have gotten the playoffs, and they're really trying to just spoil some points for teams, and they made it difficult for the Ducks. I didn't think this was going to be an easy game, but I felt like the Stars were just going to be a little bit upset and deflated that they had missed the playoffs. They just were so close. They were pretty much 1 month away from making it. It was such a poor March for them. They couldn't get in, but they didn't roll over and die. They played a strong game.
No, they didn't. Just a real quick answer, Gordon Bombay in the chat, because he's always in there. I got to answer his question. He says, was your buddy wearing a Kings jersey at the center? No, he was not at Honda Center wearing a Kings jersey. He was very nice. He told me, he's like, I didn't commit a jersey foul. He didn't wear a beanie, a hat, a jersey, nothing. He rarely cheered for anything. He was very, very nice. And so I know he was not one of the guys that is very inappropriate in wearing rival team sweaters when the team's not even playing. I can't stand that. I was just asking for trouble. But no, he was not that guy.
There's always those, and it always seems to me it's the Chicago jerseys find their way into every possible arena you can find them in. I don't understand it. Maybe it's the same guy just doing it everywhere, but I feel like when you always see that third jersey in a game where the team isn't playing, I feel like 90% of the time it's a Chicago Blackhawks jersey. I don't know, that's just me, but I feel like if I'm remembering, like the back of my head, every time I've seen another jersey, most of the time it's a Chicago jersey.
It's so bad. That's my biggest nightmare, by the way, is the Chicago Game 7 I was at. I don't like to relive it too often, but that's why I hate Chicago more than any other team in the league, just because of their fans in Anaheim.
More than the Kings?
We're not very nice. What's that?
More than the Kings? More than Kings
yes,
fans?
100%. 100%. Yeah. I've been to Staples, and I've been there with Ducks memorabilia on, and no problems. Yeah. Maybe a little booze here and there. San Jose was ruthless. Ruthless. Food thrown at us, like swear words, someone threatening to beat up my buddy's fiance. It was bad. The Sharks were not very nice when we were there. But yeah, I've never been to Chicago. I've been to Chicago. I've never been to a Chicago game. But the fans in Anaheim are not. I mean, I wouldn't even repeat half the stuff they said to me or other Ducks fans in that game. It was bad.
Yeah, I've heard that from Chicago fans. The only experience I can go off of is the only game I've actually been to is I went to the Ducks game at Honda Center against LA, and the fans usually are pretty good. I've heard some horror stories, but from my one game experience, it's a lot to draw on, I know, but they were pretty good when I was there. It's always a good atmosphere. I feel like I know a lot of people harp on the Ducks for not being able to fill the arena when the Kings come to town, but I feel like it's probably difficult because of the close proximity. You get a mix of probably about 40-60 in LA fans and Ducks fans when the Kings and Ducks play, which I guess is expected. But the only other experience I have is going in Toronto and being like one of 10 Ducks fans at the games. People are generally pretty friendly. Most of the time it's because when I've went Toronto it's just been bad, but the Ducks have had bad experience and Toronto usually wins that game. Toronto fans are usually pretty friendly, especially when they're in the majority.
Well, I mean, Canadians are notoriously like the second nicest culture next to Swedes, right? Like everyone assumes every Canadian is like the nicest person on the planet unless you know somebody who's Swedish. They're like the ultimate nice people. And then Canadians, I guess, is number two. I've always heard that about that. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of bad people where you're from, but I mean, everybody always says that Canadians are like the nicest people ever. So
yeah,
I've never been to Canada.
On some occasions.
So I want to get to the playoff picture right now before we get into anything too crazy with post game. So we got to talk about that. That's a big topic that people were talking about at the game, both last game and this game. Is where are the Ducks at? How does this all sit? You did some homework because I was at the game. You're able to go through and punch up some scenarios. Why don't you take us through what the Ducks are looking at right now with only one game left in the season?
Yeah, so there's three matchups they can have right now. They can either play the Sharks, they can either play the Kings, or they can play Vegas. For the Sharks, they can either play the Sharks where they would get home ice advantage or where they would play the Sharks 4 games in San Jose. So if the Ducks won tomorrow, there is 9 possibilities of who they could play in the first round. 8 of them are San Jose. The only time they could play somebody else is if the Ducks won, the Kings won, and the Sharks lost in regulation. The Ducks would play the Kings in the first round, and that's actually the only scenario in which the Ducks and Kings will play in the first round. And I believe, based on that, the Ducks would get home ice advantage against LA.
So we're rooting for that.
Yes. Well, yeah, I think so. I think from what I've seen, a lot of people, and it's weird, there was a poll on Ducks and Pucks today where I haven't checked on it lately. I'm going to do that right now. But when I had answered, I had answered the Kings. And
I answered that too. I said the same thing.
Yeah. When I had looked, it was Kings and Vegas in a close tie, and San Jose was the team that people would rather not play. I'm going to go see if I can find that right now because I thought that was weird. I mean, people are hating on Vegas, but here it is right now. So it actually finished San Jose and Vegas 35%. LA 30% with 651 votes. So weird. It actually switched all the way around. But so I mean, I'll move on here. The Ducks, if they lost in overtime tomorrow, if LA wins in regulation or in any fashion, the Ducks would end up playing Vegas no matter what San Jose did. Even if San Jose won, they lost in overtime. The Ducks would play Vegas if they only picked up 1 point and LA won tomorrow, which is not ideal. But I mean, as going off that poll, a lot of people believe they should be playing Vegas over LA. If the Ducks picked up a point in overtime and LA lost in overtime or lost, no matter what the Sharks do, the Ducks would play the Sharks in the first round. And they would not get home ice advantage because obviously San Jose would pick up a point. The Ducks need more than a point. They need a win to get home ice advantage over the Sharks because they they'd be tied on row with a win, but their what's it called? Their secondary tiebreaker is the season series, which the Ducks lost against the Sharks. And for the last and probably the worst outcome is if the Ducks lost tomorrow. Any point picked up from LA means the Ducks will play Vegas in the first round. And an LA loss means the Ducks will play the Sharks in the first round. So it looks like, I mean, if you had to go in your betting, it looks like the Ducks will play the Sharks in the first round. Vegas would be your next pick, and there's one out of a possible 27 scenarios here. The Ducks would play the Kings in the first round.
And if you're talking about a bloodbath ranking, you would say Kings, Sharks, then Vegas when you're talking about violence in a series.
Yeah.
My buddy Kyle, who's a Kings fan, who I went to the game with tonight, said he does not want to play the Ducks in the first round or the Sharks. He wants Vegas. He feels like Vegas is very vulnerable. They're not playing great hockey right now. The Kings have had no problem beating them. The Ducks have had no problem beating them as of late. I mean, William Karlsson showed the Sharks what was up last week, so we all know how that panned out. But Vegas, I mean, maybe they're the vulnerable team, but honestly, they're not a big team. They're not a checking team the way you see the Ducks and Kings play or the Sharks. Yeah. So you're not going to get that heavy presence. Maybe you're not going to get injured in the first round series, and you can battle that out in the second round. But God, the Ducks just have not been very good at handling the speed game, which is what throws me away from Vegas. And I just love the match. Throw me LA right now. I mean, that's what I want. I want the rivalry. I want the bloodbath. It's just the best hockey. I mean, as much as I would be afraid of injuries, it's the best hockey. Just give that to me. And I'll take the Sharks as a consolation prize. Just keep me away from Vegas and Nashville.
Yeah, I think Vegas is probably the toughest matchup, just like you said, because of the speed. And everybody likes to talk about, we're hearing all the same stuff we heard at the beginning of the season with Vegas, where they're a new team, they don't have a lot of experience, don't expect them to do well. And then they proved everybody wrong in the regular season, won the Pacific Division title. And now we're hearing the same stuff. Oh, well, they're an inexperienced team. They don't have a lot of playoff experience. They haven't played that great as of late. So I don't know if I really trust them in the first round. And then, I mean, what are they going to do? They'll probably just go out there and prove everybody wrong again and beat whoever they play in the first round. And I do not want to play 4 games at T-Mobile Arena. I don't. It's one of the hardest buildings to win in the National Hockey League today. And I would not want to have to go there and play a 7-game series against them. I just feel like that would be the worst possible matchup. I still believe LA is the best one. As much as it pains me to see that series, I'm in kind of the same boat as you. I want to see it, but at the same time I don't, because it's just going to stress me out. Like, it's the series that's going to stress me out the most, because we know if they lose, you're never going to hear the end about it. And we talked about this on the last show. It's going to be held over you more than if the Ducks lost to San Jose. But, and I feel like they match up better. I think they won the season series against LA, and the Sharks, they ended up losing. But either one of those two, Sharks or Kings, are going to be close 1-goal games, probably a 6 or 7 game series, just a bloodbath. And Vegas is just going to be sitting there waiting for whoever is able to survive through that series.
Yeah, I got 3 words for you. Marc-Andre Fleury.
Yeah.
Say what you want about that
That's
guy.
all the playoff experience you need right there.
He's great. Your goalie's got to be your best player in the playoffs. Just has to be. You can win a close game. You can get a dirty goal, and you just got to hope your goalie stands up and stands on his head in a game where you can't compete. And Fleury's been there, done that. I mean, you can say what you want about him against his series where he's faltered a bit, but the guy's got two cups. He wins in the rest until the conference final where Matt Murray had to take over. But I mean, Marc-Andre Fleury's no joke. So I mean, you got to pay attention to the crease there in Vegas, and I just don't want to see that team. You want to move on from here?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
all right.
We might be able to. Yeah, I think we've kind of killed the playoff matchups. Really, tomorrow's post game show, because we'll know who they play. I think that's when we can go really in depth, because we'll know the matchup and we can actually break down how they match up against whether it's LA, the Sharks, or Vegas.
And I suck. I may not be available for tomorrow night's show. It might be a Sunday morning show. Hope no one kills me on that.
We've had it before.
Had a lot going on, so I apologize for that. But the playoffs should be much smoother. I don't know how much everybody is into going to Corsica, and if they pay, the Patreon and all that to support them. But Corsica does analytics, for those of you who don't know. And Eddie and I are dorks, and we love hockey so much that we like to nerd out in the mathematics of it all. But you found this really cool stat called WAR, which has been widely known in baseball as wins above replacement. And they applied it to hockey. And it's pretty interesting, the findings you're able to come up with, especially with the players such as Andre Kasha and John Gibson.
Yeah, it's been applied to hockey before, but I think this is maybe the second time Corsica's actually put it up. Well, it could be the first, but I believe it's been up somewhere before. However, they finally just got it back up and working on the site, and I went and checked it out today. And of course, if you had to pick one player, and I know we've discussed this, and anybody in the chat, if you want to chime in on this, if you had to pick one player who you think would be leading the National Hockey League in WAR, who would you pick? I mean, Patrick, I'll give you a guess, and I'll let anybody want to guess in the chat if they can. But I feel like the answer's pretty obvious.